how does it get any better than this? Well, my guests are in the studio. And where do I start? I've got three. I got a phone call the other day from the wonderful Julian Silburn, who plays incredibly didgeridoo. And I've got Kavisha Matsela here as well, who's a wonderful musician who was living in Western Australia, but you've gone back to Melbourne. So our guest is James Spencer. So Spence. And I'm just going to read a little bit about this. So this is Freedom Through Education, Nepal. Devastating earthquakes hit Nepal in 2015. Founder James returned to Nepal to look for the street children he'd befriended on the visit to Kathmandu in 2013. Once he'd located them and found them to be safe, he joined teams working to help them in recovery from the devastating earthquakes. So you did a lot more things as well. So you found, after months of working with various teams, you went back to Kathmandu, reconnected with those boys, and those children were from the Dalit caste of Indian descent. And he offered to sponsor them so they could attend school. The boys took 2 weeks to give him their answer. When they did, he was surprised by their response.
The boys took me to their slums where they lived, and they lived in another part of Kathmandu called Kalamati, and in this area there was underground slums, and they took me into the underground slums where I met the other children and families, and I asked those kids who wanted to go to school. Well, there was lots of kids down there, maybe 30, and they all wanted to go, but I couldn't afford that, and I'd already estimated my costs, and I could only afford to pay for 7 kids for 1 year.
Okay.
How old were the little kids?
The kids were ranging in age from 5 years old through to 10 years old.
And the kids that said they were too old?
The youngest one there, or the oldest boy there, was 12 years old.
Oh.
And the youngest boy there was 8 years old.
And so what's the average sort of time when kids go to school in Nepal, those who can afford to go? Do they go like normally if you were living in Australia, for example?
Most kids, if they can afford to go to school in Kathmandu, are coming from the caste of children that I'm working with, if the parents have enough money to pay for them. But most of these parents don't. Their age group would start around about 4 or 5 years old and go through to the years of about 17 or 18.
And so do kids go to university in the end as well or not?
None of the kids I put through go to university because none of them have actually graduated to year 12 except for Nepali students that we've sponsored. But none of the Indian children have made it through that far. And most of the children that we put through education, provide education support for, most of them are from Indian descent.
So, James, you're here because, and Julian and Kavisha, you're both going to be at this, you've got a concert coming up, a fundraiser. Tell us a bit about that, where it is.
Well, the fundraiser is for the kids that James met, and there is a wonderful backstory that intrigued me. That James was a high-altitude trekker. He fell, in a short story version, my understanding is he fell off a mountain and he was rescued. And then the Tibetan people took him by horseback to Pokhara. Then he learnt to walk again in the hospital.
Who was this? This was James?
James.
Oh.
This was before he met the kids. But it planted a seed in his heart to give back.
Ah.
And he met these kids apparently when they were burning plastic to keep warm. And this was such shock to James, who's a total environmentalist. Like, what? You're burning plastic? What's going on? Because they're poor, because they're cold. And he thought, I'll buy them blankets. And then he thought more about it and thought, no, they need education because, education is best. And as he mentioned, he started sponsoring 7 kids, but it's grown over time.
Yeah.
And when I met James a few years ago, we were sheltering from a very heavy rainstorm on a veranda at Fibonacci, and he started telling us about, he was selling yoga bags and other kinds of bags that were made by the parents of these children, so to fund education program. And I got really interested, and I invited James to join our Heart Place choir. And he goes, I can't sing. And I said, well, that's okay. That's my specialty, working with people who reckon they can't sing. And we had a lot of fun, and we invited James to the choir, and he got bullied into joining the choir by me. But you had a good time, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great. I actually really enjoyed it.
And he's got a good voice. He just doesn't give himself credit for it. And then we all became involved in the cause. So we've got members of Heart Place Choir also singing at the gig. And we've fallen in love with James and his kids, and we just want to do something. And I'm impressed, really, that James basically has done this without a big organisation behind him.
Yeah.
And he's the most honest guy you could ever meet, because whatever he makes when he sells, it's almost like he doesn't care if he's homeless. He just gives that money to the kids. So he's incredibly honest, and it's an honour to be part of this, helping these kids in the project. I mean, we've never met the kids. I haven't yet. I haven't met the children yet.
Yeah, okay.
I think after, what is it? Is it 4 years we've been involved, or 5 years?
I'm not sure. Maybe 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think soon. I mean, I've got an idea that I think it's singing and walking, fundraising trek, easy trek. Okay, not a difficult trek.
Yeah,
would be a really good idea. But for now, we're doing concerts, and we really need to raise $12,000 to send 32 kids to school, because it's $300 plus $188 for medical expenses all through the year. But $300 will buy their uniforms and books and school fees and all that kind of stuff. So we're just on James' team. You know, he's the guy who's the activist, and we're trying to help it happen.
So, James, you just mentioned the women and the sewing. So you've taught these women, or someone taught them how to sew as well? What happened there?
Yeah, I had to find a trainer. So I found an organisation in Kathmandu called Seven Women's Organisation from originally from Melbourne. I approached them and asked them, could they help us? And initially brought in, nearly 5 or 6 years ago now, I brought in 4 women over there to be trained in sewing skills. Well, those women did train for nearly 2 years, and I brought sewing machines and other items that need to start a little workshop inside of Kathmandu. But we're unable to continue because we were given threats. If we opened the shop, we would be knocked out of business straight away. That's because of different issues with castes in the community that don't like the people that we're trying to support, who are actually a caste known as Dalit, and they're also known as the untouchables. So they're not really well supported, and that's why we provide education for them, because they don't receive any benefit from any organisations or government support.
And nothing from government.
No.
Yeah. And are all these children, Indian children living in Nepal?
Yeah, they live in Nepal. They come there their parents come there looking for work. And some of the children come in by themselves, trying to get some kind of way to escape the poverty that they come from. They're mostly from the northern state of India called Bihar, which has 300 million people living in it.
Oh my goodness.
And a lot of the population are of this caste called Dalit. The caste system is being wiped out slowly, bit by bit, but it's going to be a long time before it's completely gone.
Yes, because I thought it had been. But when I thought they'd started to do something, but it's just quite tragic that these little kids are burning plastic to keep warm.
That's right.
Are they still doing that?
Yeah, a lot of the families still cook with plastic because they can't afford the money to pay for the gas. There's no spare wood laying around the city. There's hardly any parks. They can find whatever they can. Like, you know, I've been into the underground slums where they have no ventilation. There can be a lot of people living in one room, and they'll be cooking.
Underground?
Yeah, underground.
Like, as in Cooper Pedy? They're
No,
dugout
not
thing?
that
What?
nice, I suppose.
No, but I mean, haven't been to Cooper Pedy, but they live underground.
Yeah.
Is that because they can't afford a house or anywhere to live, or is it?
Well, there's not much room inside of Kathmandu. Kathmandu's a very built-up city, and people who come there looking for work, there's not really. I mean, there is slums around the city where people can live more in the open, but other parts of the city where they're searching for work, they want to be close to their work areas, and they'll take whatever sort of accommodation they can find, and often the accommodation is like really, really below standards of any kind, and there's no sanitation or hygiene of any kind, and so they struggle and they survive in amongst it. And these sort of underground slums that I've been into are made of, they've been dug out by someone. They're long, skinny, low tunnels. The highest height inside the tunnels would be about just on a metre, just over a metre. And the walls are, it's like probably 60 centimetres wide or so, 80 centimetres wide. And it's all muddy and slimy.
And you've been inside them?
Yeah, I've been inside.
Oh, my goodness.
That's where the families live.
Are there any rooms there, or is it just these tunnels that they live in?
Oh, yeah, they dig. There's rooms dug out. So they have spaces in there where they can become a whole family, live there.
Yeah.
And I've been to them, and they're cosy, you know. And I've eaten with them like dal bhat, which is dal and rice, and had chai with them. And I sit and talk with them.
Right.
To understand the situation and to actually be able to work out who we can help, because we can't help all, we can only help a few.
So can we go back to what Kavisha was saying about how they cared for you? Tell us about that story. You were trekking, or what happened?
Yes, well, back in 2001 I went there to go trekking and to do a little bit of climbing, as I'd been training climbing in New Zealand. And I was like not very good at it. In any case, so I did a little it was altitude acclimatization trek, which turned into a climb because the other guys wanted to test his skills coming down the side of the mountain. So we left the trekking trails and we went off on our own, and we had a bit of an accident. It got very steep and I was in lead, and I was probably 10 metres below him. And I got to an overhang and I couldn't find anywhere to put my foot, and I looked over my shoulder to glance down below how far it was to the ground below, and down below me about maybe 10 metres was a shale slope of shale, and the rock I was hanging onto wasn't that great, and it cracked, and as it cracked I fell backwards. And I fell straight down. I landed on the shale on my chest, luckily, not on my back. It would have been worse. And I landed on my chest and immediately started sliding very fast down the slope until about maybe 150, 200 metres. I hit some rocks, and just one leg hit the rocks. That was my left leg, and it snapped my Achilles. And I stayed there until my friend climbed down, and he climbed down. And he used his ice axe to get down to me. And once he got to me, we found out that I had done damage to myself. And then I hung on to his ankle, and we slid the rest of the way down the slope.
Oh my goodness.
He used his ice axe as a brake until we got to some more rocks, and then we clambered over those. And over the next 5 or 6 hours, we managed to get back into a village called Manang, where we were going to... where we started from.
And you had a broken leg, though?
No, not broken leg.
What happened?
Snapped Achilles.
Snapped your Achilles?
Yeah.
There were a few questions. So shale, that's just ice, is it? Slippery ice, or...?
No, it's thin rock on top of rock. It's like layers and layers. They call it scree also, I think, and it's on the slopes of every mountain, I think.
So it's not covered with snow?
There was snow and ice around.
A little bit of ice on.
Yeah, there was snow. It was when the next morning when these people helped me get back to my room once we got to this village. The next morning I was taken to Himalayan Rescue, and they put splints on my leg, got me onto a donkey, and a Tibetan man took me to the next village, and there was a small airstrip there, and this small village was called Hongdae, and this is 12 k's from the other village. And there I stayed for the next nearly 3 weeks. waiting for a light aircraft to fly in because there was no radio contact there. But in this village was Tibetan refugees, and no one in the village actually spoke English, and I didn't speak any Tibetan. I never actually knew anything about the Tibetan situation until that time, and of course my curiosity came because they were looking after me, and every day they packed ice on my leg to help bring the swelling down. And I'd sit in the snow every day with the ladies who were sewing and knitting and making things of yakbal, and they'd feed me momos during the day, and in the evening the men would feed me ruxi, which was excellent and helped me sleep.
Wow. And so you flew out from there. Where did that take you? Did you come home straight away, or you?
No. When the time came, I got a plane back to Kathmandu, and eventually got to a hospital, and I stayed in that hospital for the next 3.5 months until my leg was good.
Really?
And then I went back to Kathmandu. I went to Kopan Monastery. I spent 2 more weeks sitting there, listening to lamas talking. And then I went from there and I thought, well, now I want to go back and finish that trek. So I did some training around the Kathmandu Valley once I left that Tibetan monastery. And I did 2 weeks trekking up and down the lower foothills around the Kathmandu Valley. And then when I felt strong enough to be able to carry myself, I went back to do that circuit, which I did. And I took a porter to carry my pack because the extra weight was going to be too hard on my leg, and I didn't want to actually do any extra damage to it. And so I completed the trek, and that was my trip there that time.
And then you went back a different time to...
Yes, I've been back to...
Where did you see the kids doing this, burning plastic? Was it at that time or later?
I did 2 more trips back to Nepal since that time. And then in 2013, I went there again after spending some time in India. And I went to Kathmandu, and I went there to go trekking again, and I ran into those kids who were burning plastic one morning. And I approached them, and I saw them, a pile of young boys, young kids, in the end of a laneway, and I saw a fire. And as I approached, I realised that these kids were going to a pile of bags and taking them over to the little fire, and then 4 or 5 kids would lean over the fire, and it just black smoke was coming off, and they were leaning right into it, so they'd vanish into the black smoke. And then I looked and I thought, wow, that's not wood, that's not paper, that's not cardboard, they're plastic bags. And the pile of plastic bags that was right beside them, that they were going to, only about 1.5 meters away, was moving. And I looked at the pile of bags and I thought, why is that moving? So I lifted up, looked under the bags, and at the bottom of those bags was a little kid clutching as many bags as he could and trying to stay warm.
Oh, golly.
And so I felt I got to do something about this. And I didn't give my clothing. I just thought, I can't give one kid a beanie, one kid my gloves, one kid my scarf, one kid my warm jacket. That doesn't work. So I thought, I've got to come back and I've got to do something. So the next morning I woke up very early. I went to a market. I brought 8 meters of woolen rug. I got it cut into 2 square meters each. And then I went back that next evening. I waited on the side of the road till the kids started turning up with their rickshaws, because these kids had a job, and their job was plastic pickers. That's what they call themselves. And they collect plastic bags off the side of the road, and any plastic bag they can find or bottle. And I waited on the side of the road until the kids turned up. And when they did, I gave each one of them I gave each one of them a rug. And I said, wrap this around you, don't burn plastic, keep you warmer. The boys sort of looked at me as if I was an idiot because they already knew what they had to do to stay warm and survive. And so I gave them these rugs, but at the same time as these boys turned up, other kids turned up. There was nearly about 15 children there who were all dressed the same as these boys. All the kids wore T-shirts, shorts and thongs. This is in January 2013 in Kathmandu, and the average temperature at night time is about 4 degrees, and the average temperature during the day was around about 8, 9, 10, something of that nature. So it was really cold. And these kids would live and work in these clothes. And so I knew I had to do more. Wasn't sure what to do at that stage, so I brought chai and took them for food, for thali is what the Indian children eat, or Indian people. So I took them to close little restaurants that would take all the kids, and took tablefuls of children into these places and let them eat whatever they want, and provided chai or a bottle of drink, whatever they wanted. And I did that for a few months and took them out, and I brought all of them clothes, shoes, jackets, long pants for all the children, and T-shirts.
And they kept them? They didn't try to sell them or anything?
Some of those kids still have them.
Oh.
They have the rugs anyway to this day.
Oh, they've still got the rugs, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's how we really started. And then in 2015, when the earthquakes happened, I was living on the east coast of Australia, and I heard about this thing, and I immediately thought about the children, and so I jumped on I quickly sold my car. I had a Land Cruiser, old one. I sold that, all my tools, everything I owned. I had to go back to Nepal to check on the kids to see what I could do to help. And so I flew back there for 3 weeks after the earthquake, and I spent the next 5 months in Nepal that time. From 3 weeks after the main earthquake, I stayed until September. And it was in September when I offered the opportunity for the children to go to school. And that's when I was taken into the underground slums, and I saw the situations, and I knew I had to help those kids out. I knew it's the only way to break the cycle of poverty is by giving them an education, a chance to read, write, and do basic maths. If you can do that, you can save a children's lives. And that's what I started to do.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing.
Amazing story.
Yeah. So, my guests in the studio, amazing James Spence and Kavisha Matsela and Julian Silburn. We've been talking to James a lot about this freedom through education, Nepal. I can see it on your little T-shirt there, James. So, James, I wonder what it was that actually, something else must have inspired you for this. So I want to know a bit about your background. Like, were you born in West Australia or Sydney or?
Yeah, I was born in Perth, actually.
Yeah, okay. And you went to school here. What was your background? You're a bit reluctant to talk about that.
My school years were pretty rugged.
So you didn't like school?
No, school didn't actually like me, I think.
Okay. Bit of a rebel?
No, school was the rebel.
Okay, school was a rebel. And then after school, what did you do when you left school?
I got an apprenticeship as a signwriter, painter, decorator.
Okay. Oh, okay.
In Kalgoorlie.
In Kalgoorlie?
Yeah.
So from Perth you went to Kalgoorlie?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I can tell you're holding back, so if you like, we won't talk about that if you don't want to. But I'm always fascinated about the journey, about where you've come from and what you did and how what made you want to go start trekking anyway?
My father took me as a child when I lived in Perth to what actually happened. I wanted to see mountains. I don't know why, but as a child I wanted to see mountains. I asked my father, "Where's a mountain?" He said, "Well, Mount Yokine is close by. Let's go there." So we went to Mount Yokine, and it turned out to be like the highest point there. I think it was the top of a road next to a golf course. And he said, "This is the top of the mountain." Oh. I said, "But there's houses across the road." This doesn't look like a mountain to me. And so that was the beginning. I wanted to see mountains. So later on in my life, when I went through a lot of life, like we all do, I felt the urge to really want to get out and see a mountain. And so I went to New Zealand, and I went to the South Island, and I hitchhiked all around the South Island.
Beautiful.
And I did some treks down there, and I did a trek across a glacier. I think it was
Franz Josef? Oh, not the Franz Josef?
No, I think it was a smaller one. And I got my first experience, what it feels like to walk across ice with crampons. And I was enjoying it until I stood on a piece of ice that cracked. And as it cracked, it broke. And
You went through
crevasse. And as I screamed and yelled and swung my arms out wide, the guy who was walking in front of me, luckily for me, he was a big fella, and he swung his arm back and it caught the forearm of my forearm
God.
as I grabbed his, and he just ripped me out. And I stood there and I grabbed him and hugged him, and he hugged me. He says, "You're lucky, man, you're lucky." And I just thought, yeah, oh my God, that was so close.
Yeah, you would have been gone if you'd gone straight through. You would have slid off the ice, slid right into a hole of ice water.
Crack, into the ground. And so I knew that walking on ice is going to be dangerous, and I knew that that doesn't always happen, but it can, so you just got to be aware and keep your eyes open. And so I really look forward to really going to walking on the ground, on the earth of a mountain. And so trekking and hiking through and visiting the southern island of New Zealand was really, really amazing for me. And then when I went back to Australia, I planned to continue travelling at that stage of my life. I had enough money that I'd saved up, and I decided to see other countries. Eventually I crossed into China, travelled through China up to Beijing, and I took a train down to Lhasa. From Lhasa I took a jeep across the mountains there into Nepal and went back into Nepal and started trekking there. The whole experience of being in those mountains for me was just the best thing that I could ever want to be. And the mountains of the Himalayas were so big all around me that it just sort of puts you in your place, put me in my place, and I sort of knew then that I was just a dot on this earth. And that was the experience of being in the Himalayas as an understanding where I fitted in on the earth.
So you had some awareness about, like, did you sit on the mountain and meditate and that sort of thing as well, or you were just one with nature?
I did meditating all over the place, but sometimes, like, when you're up there, it's like you are in a meditation even though you're walking.
Okay, yeah.
You can have your eyes wide open and you feel like you're in the most serene part of your existence.
What about the altitude sickness? You adjusted to it? Or?
Yeah, I've never had altitude sickness, and I've been up to 6,000 metres, and I've never felt it. I mean, definitely it's harder to breathe, and you move slower, and every step's hard, but I've never actually experienced altitude sickness.
Well, Julian, can you come in? We'll get you So, Julian, how did you meet James?
Yeah, so I met James at the Melville markets, the Sunday markets, the Rotary markets, and James was selling some second-hand clothes to continue to support the children that he had sponsored at that point.
Right.
And he told me some of the stories that you've heard today, and when he explained the living conditions of these kids, I felt so moved. I'm feeling moved just thinking about it again. I was really deeply affected by it, and I thought, oh God, this is a situation I've never even heard of, and I didn't even realise that, human beings could be put in this situation. It was really, upsetting to hear, like, of how other people are living in the world. And I just said, James, look, I want to help you. Like, let's run a fundraiser. Let's do it at a yoga centre. Let's get everyone involved. Let's let people know about what's happening in this situation, and call on support of the community. So Fremantle Yoga Centre was the first place we did a fundraiser. I think we did it at Off the Wall, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was.
That's where this one's coming up shortly.
It's Off the Wall Yoga Centre. It's got a new name now. It's East Fremantle Yoga Centre, because formerly known as Off the Wall Yoga Centre.
I like Off the Wall. I like
yeah.
the sound of Off the Wall. That's great.
So Kate was amazing. She really just, she's always offered the space completely free to help with these events.
Yep.
And then we had musicians involved. We had people donating products and services that would get auctioned on the night.
Yeah.
And
So what day are we talking now?
So it's this coming Saturday, 27th.
27th.
Yeah, 27th.
27th.
And I think doors open 5:30.
And how do people get tickets?
5 p.m. Yeah.
How do people get tickets?
Probably the easiest way at this point in time is to either go onto Facebook, either through Kavisha Marcella's page or Jimmy Spence page, or my page, Julian Silburn, or Sound Alchemy. So there's a few options there.
Okay.
Basically, that's where we're sharing it.
So I've got a little thing here that you sent me on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's Facebook. That one.
If you write
Try
freedom
booking, yeah.
through Education Nepal, try booking.
Yeah.
You'll
Okay.
get
Freedom through Education. Try booking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
freedom through Education Nepal.
Yeah.
Nepal.
And then try
booking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get straight onto a ticket.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. So it is listed with
Yeah,
try
let me have a look
booking,
at that,
and
and
the
I'll-
events are listed on the try booking page. Yeah, so if you just do search, it will bring up the page. It's got
Yeah.
the direct booking link and the information for the night.
It's an alcohol-free event, and they've chai and nibbles available by donation. Global award-winning Encoder trio, Tanil, Julian, and January will be there. And ARIA award-winning Kavisha Matsela will be there, and they're in the studio right now with James. Scottish enchanting vocalist Kaya, is that right? Yep. And harmonising movement with Kate from Off the Wall, that's now called East Fremantle Yoga Centre.
Yeah.
You guys said you might give us a bit of a song or something.
Yeah.
Shall I play something while you get tuned up, or
Sure.
what
Sure.
will we do?
You can do
Okay. Okay, so I've got a choice here. Ichiku Park, Keep On Running, or Born to Be Wild.
I think it's Born to be Wild.
I think
'cause
so too.
James was born to be wild.
I think definitely it's Born to Be Wild. So yeah, Steppenwolf and Born to Be Wild, and everyone in the studio at the moment, Born to Be Wild, Kavisha Matsela, James Spence and Julian Silburn. And we're going to have some live music right now. So, Kavisha, what number are you going to play? Does it have a name, or are you
Yes,
just...
this is called Eagle Flying, and
Eagle
it's
Flying, sounds
Eagle
from
Flying,
Dunedin?
and it's really about being in nature and connecting with the flying eagles that you see in the Australian desert. But I think you must have seen a few eagles up there in the Himalayas.
Yeah, lots actually.
Oh, beautiful. This one's for you.
Vultures and eagles.
Can't,
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, you said lots, yeah.
And we just acknowledge the Wajak Noongar people and the land here,
Okay.
and the people from Arnhem Land where the Yadaki is from.
Okay. Now look at the better that.
As I walk this country, as I walk this land, I feel you watching over me. As I walk this country, as I walk this land, I feel your spirit healing me. Eagle flying, eagle flying, eagle keeper of our dreams. as I walk this country, as I walk this land, I feel you watching over me. As I walk this country, as I walk this land, I feel your spirit healing me. Eagle flying, eagle flying, eagle keeper of our dreams.
Wow. Thank you so much. How does it get any better than that? Kavisha Matsela and Julian Silburn. And if you'd like to hear more of that, lots more of that, this coming up this Saturday, the 27th, at it used to be called Off the Wall Yoga Centre in East Fremantle. It's now called the East Fremantle Yoga Centre. And you can go on to Try Bookings, look up Freedom Through Education Nepal, and you'll find it. You'll find it there, or you can give me a call here, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know a bit more about it. And you can listen back to this show anytime you like, so you can hear the incredible story James Spence has had with his experience in Nepal and leading up to Nepal, and these beautiful children, and how you can actually support them, and not only just through this concert, but also, in the future. So other fundraisers coming up, and let's hope, we can get something more organised. A lot, not that you're not organised, but if you listen back to what James said today and his story, your heart will just want to do something. So we'd love to see you there, and Off the Wall, it'll probably be booked out, I'd say.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. I'm sure we'll squeeze a few extras. Oh, yeah, just got to let you know that there's also a lot of fantastic tankas. James, do you want to talk about those beautiful art? There's art for sale.
There's art, Aboriginal art and Tibetan.
They're called tankas, and they're devotional paintings. So beautiful Buddhas, Tara, green Tara, the sign Om and how it sounds. It's beautiful mandalas, absolutely stunning. And didn't you say something about they were donated from a art collection?
Yeah, that's right. A particular person donated about 8 or 9 particular artworks that were very old. We think they're either from Tibet or Bhutan, and they're over 100 years old, or at least 100 years old. And I took photos of what I was given, and I sent them to an art dealer in Nepal. And he wrote back to me telling me that they are very good works of art and hard to get hold of. So, of course, they're 100 over, or maybe around it, we think around about 100 years old. There's no actual date on them, but an estimation. And so they'll also be up for auction. And we also have about nearly 20 other paintings. We also have tankas, and we have larger paintings that are on canvas of Tibetan artworks. Most of them have been painted in Nepal. And we also have some Aboriginal works by local Aboriginal artists, Rose Yamagiri, I think that's how you say the name.
Yeah.
And and she's also providing some beautiful artworks that will be up for auction and sale.
Is it going to be a silent auction or a bit of both, or how are you going to fit everything in?
Most likely
5:30 to 9:30. 5:30 to 9:30 it says here. So 4 hours, we've got to get some music in. You're going to get your own little bit of chai and some nibblies by donation, and the auction.
That's right, and also a connection with Nepal. We're going to do a live connection with the kids in Kathmandu.
Oh, a live connection.
Yeah, so they'll be on a video screen, so people will be able to see the children.
How did you work that out, James? How did you get that? Have they got...
we have a worker who works for us in Kathmandu.
Okay.
And we only have one paid worker out of all of us who work on this project.
Okay.
And he is going to be in position on the Saturday afternoon in Kathmandu with the children at one of the school grounds, and we're going to allow... We've only got a 10-minute connection, so there will be a little bit of a talk as well as a chance for people in the crowd to ask questions of the children, and we'll probably get 3 or 4 questions in, and the kids can answer.
And did they... I wanted to ask you, did they speak English before? Are they speaking English now? Or what's happening?
Most of the kids can speak
Pidgin.
Reasonably good English.
Yeah.
And of course they speak Hindi and Nepali.
So how did you communicate originally with them about asking their parents if they could go, you could pay for them to go to school if they didn't speak any English then?
Oh, because I had translators.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So because of the kids that I first initially supported and helped out back in the street in Kathmandu, which was called Z Street in Tamil, Kathmandu, these kids are still my friends to this day. They all have different lives now. These kids that I never actually even put into school, but I've managed to help them out in other ways in finding employment, and got some of them trained in different jobs so they could find employment. Those kids are friends now, and they're in their early 20s.
Oh, wow.
And these kids, well, I still call them kids because I'm quite old. So I can call for their assistance when I need it, and they help me out, and they also communicate very well in the community because they're of the same people.
And so do you have a website where people can have a look at as well, or if they want to stay in touch?
Yes, we do. We have a website. It's called Freedom Through Education Nepal.
Yep.
You must put in the whole word, Freedom Through Education Nepal.
Okay.
There's other websites with a similar name, but you must add Nepal on the end. Okay. And that will take you to our website, which needs updating, by the way. But it's there, and it has a lot of the good information on it.
Julian.
Something that was really excellent that happened was that we had a connection with Rotary, and we've got tax deductible status through an overseas aid project. So that took quite a lot of work. So people, if they're wanting to tax deduct and reduce their taxable income, they can consider us as a charity.
Fantastic.
So we do have a link on the website to that Rorke's account, and on the night we've got a QR code so people can... Okay.
What about those people who aren't QR code friendly?
Yeah, so there's a web link we've got on the website as well, and you can just go straight to that website.
But on the night, can people just donate? They can just bring your cash.
Yeah,
cash
absolutely.
is king.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. We're back again. I'm Mary-Lucille. This is Wild Honey, and I have some wild people in the studio. We have Julian Silburn, James Spence, and Kavisha Matzella. And we're talking about Freedom Through Education Nepal, and how James has actually started this, pretty much an organisation to assist these children to get educated in Nepal. But James has got some very interesting stories about his life as well. So you were just talking a little bit there. I missed a bit, but it's about you rode a motorbike through Kashmir, or what was that?
Yeah, I've done that a few times. The first time I rode up into northern India was in 2007 when I brought a bike in Pokhara in Nepal. And I rode it down to the border and across the top end of India, me and one other guy. And then we split at a place called Almora in the state of Uttar Pradesh, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to keep continuing on my way up to Kashmir because I wanted to get back up in the Himalayas. and he was intending to go to southern India down to Goa. So we went 2 different directions, and I continued on my journey for another a month or so, and I got up into Ladakh region of the Himalayas, and I decided to ride to an area called Zangska Valley, Ladakh, which is in side of the state of Kashmir, this region called Ladakh. And I rode down Zangska Valley, which is a 270-kilometre valley with mountains on either side of you, along either side of you. These reach up to around about 6,500 to 7,000 metres. And I find it's the best time to go into that region of the earth is at the end of winter, when the roads have been opened, because for 8 months of the year, that part of the earth is closed off to everybody because of the ice and snow. It's massive. The ice drifts the ice packs can be up to, the highest I've seen are about 10, 15 metres. Because they Border Road cut through, the Border Road organisation, they cut the roads through the ice if you want to go in earlier, which I have done in the past as well. And so I find myself in that part of the world because of the isolation and the remoteness and the beauty of the environment of that part of the world. Mm-hmm. It's extremely stunning, and there's literally nothing out there except for an occasional village. I find my places sleeping at night. I sleep on the side of the road in a small tent. I carry everything I need in my pack on the back of the bike. I usually ride a Royal Enfield, a 350 Bullet, because of my body weight is not so heavy, but my amount of equipment I need to carry for those runs is around about 25, 30 kg of weight, including all the cold weather stuff.
How do you go with fuel?
I carry up to 10 litres and my tank can take 18. So when I come across villages or anybody who's got a vehicle and I can see they're not using it, I might ask them, or I would ask them, could you sell me some fuel? Most of the vehicles up there, the trucks and occasional buses, they run on diesel, so I can't use that, but I can use the petrol that they use in the smaller vehicles. And I can trade with the people. I can give either something I might be carrying that I can trade with them, because not all of them take money. Trading different items of your equipment is good if you can spare it, like a clutch cable or a spare horn off because I usually carry 3 clutch cables, 3 horns, 3 accelerator cables and 3 brake cables, clutch plates and spare tyre and air pump.
That would be the 25 kilos.
Yeah.
And how do you feed yourself?
Big pardon?
I mean, how do you feed yourself? And also want to know, how do you fund this? You know, like, do you come back to Australia and work for a few months and then go back again, or what?
Yeah, in those days I was working more.
Okay.
And I was...
as a sign writer, or did you change your jobs?
No, I'd worked as a painter for many years, and as a cook, and a general hand on properties, and a maintenance worker. So nothing nothing fully solid, but most of the jobs were my only way of making money to travel. And I'm pretty good at saving, so I managed to save. And so I'm very glad I was able to do that. And travelling also, I learnt different ways to make money on the travel. In a place in India called Jaipur in Rajasthan. Yep. The city of Jaipur is a capital of stones and gems in that country, and I would sometimes go there and buy a few different gems and have them made into rings and then sell them to other tourists on the travel to make some money. So those sort of little things come in handy.
Oh, yeah.
Painting other people's motorbikes. I do sign... I paint motorbike tanks and side covers and,
so you
helmets.
You carry paints with you as well, or you just pick them up?
Yeah, I carry small tubes of paint.
Wow.
Or little jars of paint and a couple of brushes. And,
so you're very resourceful.
Yeah.
I can see the cartoon now. James, across the Himalayas, has got paintbrushes and tyres.
I think you should. Have you written the book yet? Well, this is the start to it. It's on here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm not a very good writer. So
No, you can do it with somebody who's a writer.
No, you just talk it. You talk like you're talking now and someone else writes it for you. Yeah.
Maybe
and then
one
they
day.
collate it. And they collate it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it sounds so amazing, James.
Yeah. Oh.
Like just meeting James on the veranda at Fibonacci, I was intrigued. I thought, wow, because James is not a big buffy guy,
No, I know. He's you must live on a sniff of an oil rag.
Yeah, but there's a beautiful energy about James that it just, my intuition just thought, oh, this guy's a really important in the sense that he's got a really good spirit, and you've got to connect with people of good spirit. And I thought, well, James is very tolerant of my enthusiasms, but yeah, so it's been a really good beginning of a friendship, and good to. We have everything we need, and it's really amazing to give to people that you've never met, and you're not getting anything out of it. It's not a trade relation. Yeah. It's simply an opportunity to give from the heart, and it's really good to do. You just feel so good doing it. And we've done a couple of concerts, and every time at the end, like the last concert, we said we needed at that time. I mean, things have gone up. We needed $6,000, and we were a little bit, oh, God, that's a lot of money. How are we going to do that? But at the end of the night, we went over the line, and we were all so excited. We were jumping around. And so it's such a vibe,
Yeah. And so have you got a target for this weekend?
12. Things have doubled, haven't they?
Yeah, things have really doubled. I was in Kathmandu mid last year for 5 months. Just returning after COVID years. It was my first time back, and I was really surprised at the price of airfares to go there and return, and also for the food, accommodation, education costs, fees we have to pay. Our costs every month, because we had a workshop running last year, I set one up again for the mothers of the children to trying to provide skills training for them so that one day they could actually pay for their own children's education costs, because I was concerned about the project, us not being able to raise enough money to keep the kids in school, because every year we go down to almost skint. Like right now, for example, we don't have enough money to pay the next month's fees. We have about $270 in our account for the project after paying just the fees about 2 weeks ago, which is around about $800. So on average, we send about $800 a month to Nepal to cover all the fees and costs, which and so basically we struggle. Every month, me and my number one co-worker in Australia and anywhere in the world is Julian Silburn, and we work the project together. And I get messages, James, you've only got like $30 in the account. How are we going to pay next month's fees? I go, trust in the universe. And he says the same to me.
Yeah.
Trust in the universe. And it does.
Yeah.
The universe does provide, and we literally just live on skint.
Yes. That's what I always ask the question, like, how does it get any better than this? What else is possible? And it's opening it up for, never thought of that. Right, so something else comes in.
The thing is that each child is $300. That's the education side.
For a year.
Yep. And so if you think about our schools here, and a lot of kids, their parents pay $25,000 to
a year.
And what's great about this is your dollar goes a long way. So even if you thought, I can't go, or just if you donated $10, $20, whatever, anything makes a difference. But it really does make a difference.
And have you got a GoFundMe? Have you thought about that, or you haven't got there yet?
We haven't got a GoFundMe. We've basically been fairly through the concerts. We've been able to do it. But we might have to do GoFundMe as well.
GoFundMe might.
Yeah. The other thing that... sorry, I'm the one that's squeaking this microphone. So something that's really made a difference is someone just said to us, look, I want to support the project. I want to pay $50 a month ongoing. And I've just been watching that, and, because I'm the one sort of tracking the money, and that's just made such a big difference, because it's like, even though it's just one person doing that, you can just see that it's just topping things up. And if we had like several people all doing that, that would be so
they do
amazing.
it for these huge organisations that have massive management and lots of fees, and 10% goes to the person. But all of yours goes to the children and the one man who gets something.
Yeah, this is absolutely. This is the brilliant thing about this project, is the money goes directly to the project, to the kids. It is making such a massive difference. Like when I first met James and he showed me photos of the families and the children, there was no hope in these families' eyes and the children's eyes. You could see that it was just so destitute. It was like someone who'd been through a Holocaust or something. You could see that there was no life force there and no hope. And what's happened in these 8 or 9 years is that these kids have got their sparkle back. They've got their joy back. They've got their life back, you know.
Their dreams.
And
they're dreaming of...
Transformation that's happened in this short amount of time is remarkable, you know, and we've seen such a difference, you know, particularly James, but just I can see it in the photos, and when sometimes we get them on the phone or on the computer and we can hear their voices, and it's making such a difference. And of course there's many important causes around the world, you know, but if everyone just does a little bit towards something that's close to their heart, it doesn't have to be this project, it can be something else, but something that, you know, just one person like James who just instead of thinking, oh, this is too hard, just found a way of making it happen. Yeah. That's what we all got to do. And if we're all doing that in the world, this world's just going to thrive.
Yeah, so I guess it's time to wind up. And so we've been talking about the Freedom Through Education Nepal. And if you'd like to know more about it, just go to that website, freedomthrougheducationnepal.com.au, is it? Or not, or .com. .com, okay. And the concert that's on this Saturday, the 27th, at Off the Wall, you'll know it as, or East Fremantle Yoga Centre it's called now. And the guests, I've had these wonderful musicians in the studio as well. We only got time to play one song because I was so interested in the story as well.
The film, the book, the T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh yes, next time it'll be merch, as they all say. Yeah. That's where all these singers were saying they make their money in their merch.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So thank you so much, Kavisha Matsela, for coming in and singing, and welcome back to Perth for the short time that you're here.
Thanks so much.
And Julian, thank you so much for coming in again and for giving me the call and saying, can you come on? I'm so glad. And James, wonderful to hear your story, and good luck with it all. And
thank you so much. That's amazing, Mary-Lou.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.